Welcome to AzureABILITY, a podcast for everyone interested in the art and science of developing solutions for the Microsoft Azure platform. Each show brings insight from the folks who know Azure best, including the cloud solution architects who help Microsoft's leading clients devise the most innovative and interesting solutions on the planet, as well as the engineers and program managers who build Azure itself. Listen in and you'll be sure to speed your journey into the cloud. And now your host, Louis Berman.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of AzureABILITY. This is Louis Berman, your host, and I'm very pleased today to be with my friend Kevin Boland from Bentley Systems, who's going to tell us all sorts of odd things from our client's perspective about Azure, right? He's a booster, but he's my friend, so he's probably going to make fun of me and say all sorts of odd things too. So before we get into it, I just want to say a few things about Kevin. What can I say about Kevin? He's a bit of a robotics dweeb, right? Isn't that a good thing?
Yeah.
You know, I can't quite figure out if he roped me into a crazy project, which we'll talk about in a little bit, for the Franklin Institute, or if I roped him in. But somehow it was a crazy project that consumed a year of our lives.
Yes.
And what are you? You're like a cloud architect, I think, right?
Yep. Cloud
and
architect.
So why don't you say something about yourself? Who the hell are you?
Hey, Lou, it's good to be here with you. So my name's Kevin Boland. I'm a cloud architect at Bentley Systems, as you said. Been at Bentley going on 20 years now. I've worked in Azure.
He's very lazy. He refuses to move anywhere.
Yeah. right here. Actually, I have moved. So I've moved for Bentley to New York and back.
Yeah,
so I'm back here in the headquarters. And so I've been working in Azure and different cloud platforms for a while now. As you mentioned, somewhat of a robotics geek, worked at projects with Drexel, with companies like Loco Robo. My daughter, who's now in college, did a lot of their summer workshops with robotics. So,
yeah. And the most important Kevin fact I personally have is on the back of my laptop. What does it say back there, Kevin?
Yeah. Evil mad scientist.
Big sticker that Kevin gave to me, and people always look very bemused at whenever I'm walking around with my laptop. It's a robotics.
It's a robotics company. Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
Okay,
so,
I knew it was something.
Yeah.
And that's really great to hear. And so, by the way, I'm using a new mixer board. I just want to do something, right?
Yeah.
I can do all sorts of weird sounds.
I hear it switching in my headset.
Yes. So if it turns out that, I was more competent in this stuff, one of these days I'd actually use that stuff for real. But
I see
the
colors are changing.
Board. Yeah, the colors are changing. It's very, very, very cool. So anyway, the reason why we're really here, aside from your dogs, we'll talk about your dogs too, is to talk about why Azure? And, Kevin you're something like cloud architect, right? Is that what it is? And Kevin works for one of the largest Azure consumers on the planet. They use Azure all over the place. And you mostly work in what would be termed managed services. Is that a good way of putting it?
Yeah.
And I wanted to get the perspective of a client who uses Azure. And we're not just talking a teeny bit. It's a large and varied amount by, I don't know, there's 3,500 people in your company. I'm sure a bunch of them use it, thousands maybe. So tell me a little bit about it. Why Azure? How Azure? What do you do?
So in the managed services space, we work more with IaaS.
Which is infrastructure as a service.
Correct. Yep. Infrastructure as a service. And
acronym police, I believe, is the name for that. I should be an acronym police officer.
Have like a little key chart.
That'd be an IPO and an APO in case you wondered. So,
yep. And so a lot of Bentley applications, we have done what we refer to as a lift and shift into the cloud.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of things that were on premise, but have now moved to the cloud. And at this point, for some of the applications, a good amount of time, and then we try to cloudify, as I like to put it, applications in the cloud. So we move them to VMs, get them up and running, and then we try to take advantage of some more of the services that Azure provides to have them work well for our users.
Okay, and you use a lot of ARM, I'm guessing? Yep. Azure Resource Management Templates. You see, I'm being a police officer myself right now.
So automation is key for us. We try to automate as much as possible. We've worked on projects together to automate.
Absolutely.
And that's really helped us to deliver our services, our products to our users quicker, better, faster.
So how did you even learn about Azure? And you've probably been doing it for years. When did you start?
Let me think, because it kind of all blends together. Probably 5 years ago.
Okay.
Roughly.
So not at the very beginning, but pretty early on.
Yeah, pretty early on. We probably actually even looked at Azure really early on. We came from different cloud platforms, in particular AWS, and always wanted to use Azure. We have a good relationship with Microsoft. Historically, you guys help us out all the time now. Mm-hmm. So it made sense to me, to use Azure.
And Bentley is an ISV, right? So it's not your typical enterprise firm who's consuming Azure exclusively for their use. You're actually giving Azure for other clients, right? And
correct.
So there's challenges to that, right?
Yeah,
so what are
absolutely.
some of the challenges?
So managed services, particularly the space I'm in, we're all about using Azure and to deliver a service to our users globally. Mm-hmm. So we have many, many data centers, right? Azure data centers that we use globally. And it's just the scale and the amount of users that are adopting, I'll call it cloud, and using our services. So we have to adapt to that. I should mention that Bentley, primarily we deal with engineers and architects. There's different technologies that come out that the file formats are larger, so we have to provide storage, compute power.
So what would be larger in your world? Gigs,
so
in some cases, right?
Gigs, exactly, like what we call like an orthotiff file. I used to work on site at a Department of Transportation. What they do, it's kind of cool in the spring, they'll take an airplane, fly it for 2 weeks, take pictures of all the highways in the state of New York. They're big files, right? Graphic files called orthotiffs. So they could be...
Kevin's hands are very wide. He's gesticulating crazily here.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Big files. And so what they'll do is they'll take that graphic, or what we call raster data in the engineering world, and then use that for the rest of the year to redesign highways, to put vector data over that. So you could have many different file formats in the engineering world, lots of files that all relate to each other. If you're building a bridge, there could be a road, there could be the structural engineering of the data. So the point being there is a lot more data comes in. Even now they're using drones to do the same type of work. All that data gets pushed back into our software so that engineers and architects can do their job.
Sure, and you have to sling that around to do analytics on it and
all kinds of stuff with that data, more intelligent data, right? Yeah.
If I may give Bentley a plug, and I don't use their products, but I swear Bentley products are everywhere in architectural engineering and consulting. So I am in a conference room, I can't say the company, but there's like a rotation of cool things, right, on a big screen. And up comes a street that looks very familiar to me. And it's a program, and it says Bentley. And it turns out that street was in Ohio. No, I'm sorry. It was in Iowa, Des Moines, Iowa, where we were doing client meetings. And just like... your software architected it or something, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's one of the amazing things. Again, having been here, you'd be amazed how much everyday infrastructure Bentley software has designed or been a part of. I mean, every road you go down, most of the DOTs use our software. It's really amazing at the software and what it's built in the world. I worked on a lot of cool projects through the years. It's amazing. Yeah.
And more of this software is in Azure. Right? I mean,
correct. Yeah.
That is the deal. But it wouldn't be fair to say you're all in Azure. You're in the process of going, even though you've been doing it for 5 years, right?
So that is correct. I will say for particularly what I'm mainly focused on, we are 100% in Azure as of late last year, but in general.
No, you're managed service. Again,
correct.
The company has 3,500 people, and you're an independent software vendor. So what were some of the challenges?
So the other thing is Bentley also has a lot of desktop applications. Yes. So, I mean, you always have that too.
Yeah, like MicroStation, your
flagship.
Hi, my name's Gretchen Huebner, and I'm a founder of Codable. Did you know that kids who are introduced to programming early on are more likely to pursue it when they get to college? Codable is an introduction to programming used in over half of U.S. elementary schools. I started Codable because when I was in high school, I had the chance to take a programming class, but I didn't take it because I would have been the only girl. I wanted to give kids the chance to decide if programming is something that they're interested in before they get to high school. Help your kids learn to code. Get started at Codable.com. That's Codable with a K for kids.
So tell me some of the challenges you had in getting to the cloud and getting it going. And I assume you're not done with challenges, right?
No, I mean, we're always looking to enhance things. So the challenge, scale of storage, how to deal with storage, that was definitely
and we're talking petabytes of storage. But it's not always petabytes, right? You have smaller chunks, maybe gigs. Terabyte here, gig there, right?
Yeah, correct.
But
it depends on
the
user. Yep.
Yeah.
So just managing that data, I'm trying to think early on, latency. Now, as infrastructure, as far as like internet infrastructure, speed, that gets better every year. But even early on, if we go back 10 years when we started to work with the cloud and just in general with user sites, there's just different routing the way they route and latency. So even from a user side going to over the cloud or over the internet, right, we would be introduced with high latency. And how do you deal with that? How do you make the software react better? So, for example, if we go back to what we were talking about with files, we have in one of the other main softwares we work with, ProjectWise, we had to introduce Delta file transfer.
So what is ProjectWise, firstly?
Yeah, it's a content management system, document management system to simplify it. And it manages all this engineering content that we just talked about.
Really big stuff.
Yeah, that really big stuff. We do have users that are small to large, like really large users, thousands of users per account, company. And so with ProjectWise, we introduced the Delta file transfer so that you're not pulling that gig file we talked about or even 10 megabyte file. You're only doing the diffs, right, between them. And so that really helps with latency, and that really helps use our product. And these are the things as we work in if you want to call it a wide area network or now the cloud or over the internet, things that we had to, adapt to.
You're so close. It's a WAN. Say WAN.
WAN.
You're allowed to use acronyms, so I can have the pleasure of telling you use an acronym. Only kidding. So basically, what tools in Azure do you tend to use? I mean, to do things. You use the portal, I imagine, a lot, but also
the portal. I feel like now there's so many tools. So which one to pick?
I mean, maybe tell me about, like, for instance, you have ARM templates, right? You do, and you have PowerShell scripts. How do you repository them? How do you play around with them?
Yep. So we use Azure DevOps. We write a lot of PowerShell for everything from ARM deployment, right? So that's the automation of building the environment. But then we also use PowerShell for the application. So we have commandlets, if you're familiar with PowerShell, that are built into the application themselves. We use the native Azure commandlets to do various functions in Azure. So we're doing everything from the application layer to native Azure automation, and we store them at Azure DevOps, and we work with multiple departments even in Bentley to collaborate and either write a script from the ground up or enhance each other's scripts. So we very much work in a team that way.
And are these native scripts, or do you do desired state configuration for IaaS boxes? What do you do script-wise?
So we script everything from software upgrades to ARM deployment templates, right? We use a lot of them. Within the application, we will do the deployment of the application and configuration all through PowerShell and just different ARM templates. We'll use sometimes the native template, but then we usually modify it so much and keep it in our Azure DevOps, which used to be VSTS, which is another acronym.
Yes, VSTS, which became VSO, which became, or
Azure
VSO
DevOps.
became VSTS, became Azure DevOps. And, we're very good at naming at Microsoft. We don't want to name anything just one time when we name it 3 or 4 times confusingly. So thanks for pointing that out.
Keeps everyone on their toes.
Yes, absolutely. So you also do a fair amount of monitoring, I imagine, and performance stuff, but you work with other parts of the company too to do that, right?
Right, yeah. So we have different alerts. We'll use some native Azure. We use third parties as well, like SolarWinds, for example. And then, that's other parts. And then it will be escalated up to my team if you see any kind of alert come in. We also have scripts to give high availability, that kind of thing, through a script. So if we see X action happen, we try to automate the response to that.
So what do you guys do about cost? I know you guys are very cost conscious. What sort of things, aside from yell at me and give us more for less?
Do better, right?
Do better.
Right. So we're always looking at costs. We want to make sure that the VMs or just the infrastructure in general that we are running is being utilized, that something's not built and just sitting around. So we have various things where we look at cost, kind of goes back into the utilization, if VMs are still needed. So we'll do capacity management type of reports and the like to try to reduce costs that way. Going back to storage, we'll use different Azure storage technologies that we look into.
Files versus blobs? Is
Yeah,
that what you're talking about? Or premium versus...
or just native disk. Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. And try to get to different levels there.
So the funny thing about native disk, and it turned out I just had a Huawei conversation with one of your colleagues about files, which is an SMB 3.0 compatible sort of thing. Apparently you had a meeting with this gentleman who I won't name. Yes, beforehand. And so Azure just has a lot of different choices for that. How do you even navigate and decide which way to go?
Yep. So we have another department that we work closely with. When I say we, my department, and we look at the different IOPS and what's needed. For example,
what's an IOP?
That's a good question.
I don't even know what it stands for. It's operations, internet operations.
Input output, right? So
input output P.
Yeah. Right. And then so we'll look at things like that to make sure that as we move to different technology, in this case we're talking storage, that we meet that bandwidth. So we have our baseline of what IOP and at least meet that threshold. We or always try to do better. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So we're not necessarily here to talk so much about the technology and stuff. I wanted to mostly get into, so like, how do you work with vendors? Like Microsoft's a really big vendor for you. I mean,
yeah.
So what does that mean? How does it work? We have a big team who works with you, right?
Yeah. So it's a big team. Most importantly, you comes on site.
He's trained well.
Yeah. So yes. So it's great working with Microsoft. We've been out to Redmond at least once, maybe twice. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually you didn't attend, but there was an executive briefing. I just came back from Redmond the last week before last.
Okay,
and you sent out 16 of your colleagues.
Yep. So we have historically a great relationship with Microsoft. We've been working together maybe 5 years now.
I'm not old enough to have worked
for 4
together.
years.
It's been a long number of years.
Microsoft MakeCode brings computer science to life with fun projects, immediate results, and both block and text editors for learners at different levels. With MakeCode, students can build a cardboard air guitar, a magic wand, a milk carton robot, or play with MakeCode Arcade, our retro 80s game development platform. Even make it rain chickens in Minecraft. Visit makecode.com to get started.
So it's very important to note, and this is totally random, the very first desk I sat down when I came here on the very first day was opposite Kevin. So he turns out to be a really important guy here, but it was totally random. And actually, today was hilarious because I came in and you've moved your office.
Yeah.
And if I didn't see one of your colleagues, Juan, earlier this morning, I would have had no idea.
Well, we did that on purpose.
Oh, you did it on purpose. Yeah. I don't know. Anytime you don't see a guy sitting somewhere, you have to wonder if something's happened.
Right.
So you weren't showing the door, right? You have a lovely office, right? So it's but it was one of those near things, right? And so that's damn funny. Let's talk about something else before we get back into technology. So
sure.
You had this stupid idea, which was, wouldn't it be great to 3D print a telescope?
Yep.
And it's really important to note, you didn't own a 3D printer at the time.
No.
So how the hell did we end up at the Franklin Institute doing this, teaching kids how to do it?
So I am trying to think. I remember I went there for, I think, a 3D print workshop.
Okay.
And Sam, who we work with, she taught the class. And then maybe I read probably somewhere in like Maker Magazine, something like that, about a 3D print telescope. And I thought, I kind of combined it all. I know you are the president of the local
Delaware Valley Amateur Astronomers.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm the president.
Yeah, you're the president. So I kind of put
my last year, though.
There
Hooray.
you go. 2019. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I took that and then, sprinkled a little robotics with Arduino boards.
Yep.
And then Sam did the 3D print, and you knew that and all about the star. So I think
yeah, it was. I don't know. This is like one of those things that seemed really, really simple. We're going to 3D print a telescope. Then we found the Franklin Institute. Then suddenly, it seems silly for two grown men to, print telescopes and stuff. So we decided, let's teach a class on 3D printing telescopes. And I have a friend who's the director of the astronomical program there, Derek Pitts, astronomer extraordinaire, I guess you could say. And then this thing went on forever. Well, every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it never ended. Yeah. So kids printed a whole bunch of telescopes.
They learned the code, though. I think they learned how to code. Yeah. I think that's what happened. I think
you did the PHP coding. You showed them how to do it, right?
Yeah, Adreno and just different.
You did Raspberry Pi, I think. Right?
Yeah, we ended up doing the Raspberry Pi at the end. You're right. Yeah, so a lot of it morphed organically, which was cool. I mean, so the kids learned all kinds of stuff about 3D print, coding. You brought
optics.
Optics, exactly. You brought all that in. At one point, we even did the makey, if anyone's familiar with that.
Yes.
To learn how to code. So we were bringing in other stuff to...
and I remember in particular, you had a sheet of paper that you made an electrical circuit out of somehow with a detector, and you touched this piece of paper.
Yes.
And somehow
with a pencil.
With a pencil. That's what it was. Yeah. So the point is, I have a history of being led down these weird paths with Kevin, and but
it was fun.
It was a great experience.
It did go on for a long time, but it was fun.
Yes. And so, I guess that's the whole thing. And I think this is really important. Lots of times you have the vendor-client relationship, and we certainly started as a vendor-client relationship, but, you hang out with people, eventually they're going to become your friends. Yeah. And we try to do the right thing. Happily, I'm in a sales organization, but I don't really get to sell. I get to complain people that I'm selling you stuff, but I don't really sell anything.
You get to be techie.
I get to be techie, and that is fun. At Bentley, there's just a lot of things. And I didn't even realize this when I was thinking about doing this interview, but this is really only one part of the organization. I should probably talk to 2 or 3 other people here in these sort of things. So what's new in the future for you guys in Azure?
So I mentioned IaaS, right? We defined that. So we kind of did this lift and shift. And as I'll say, evolve in the Azure cloud, we are looking to use more PaaS, which do you want to go acronym, please? You want to
acronym, please? No. Hold on a second. I have to press one of these buttons. Wow, that really works.
I don't hear that sound, just so you know.
Okay,
that's fine.
So that got recorded. I'm going to have to do this again, listeners. Sorry about this. I didn't have Kevin on the monitor, so...
Okay, there you go.
So was that good? Was that fun? Good for you? I'm using a lovely Roadcaster Desk, which I literally just got yesterday. It's much easier than the previous ways I've been doing podcasts, and it has all these gewgaws, but there should be like a... there's these big square buttons that are lit up. They're so inviting. You want to touch them. I have to really lock them away or
hold back.
Yeah. So, you're trying to do more PaaS stuff going forward.
To more native services in general. Yeah.
And what about networking and stuff? You guys are mostly on the public internet. Is that correct? Or are you also VNetting and express routing with people?
Mostly public internet,
Okay.
And we use just certificates and secure it that way over the internet. But
good. Yeah. Which turns out to be a great way to do it. People don't like to do application level sort of stuff, but I guess because you guys are ISVs, you tend to do things.
At the application layer. And it's just, it works for us, right? So
absolutely. So what have you done to learn Azure at all? I mean, I know you tend to do a lot. You tell me about stuff, but what do you do?
I mean, docs.microsoft.com, the docs page is really great. As you know, and probably people listen to this podcast, Azure is constantly changing, which is a good thing. It's weekly, right?
I didn't notice. I didn't notice. It's a surprise.
So it's trying to keep up with that. The Ignite. So I'm just trying to think of
you mean latest conferences and stuff?
Yeah, looking at the conferences online after the fact from Ignite. So they were all posted, available, I guess, when we logged in. So that was really good information. Trying to fit all that in. Yeah. And then whatever we're looking for, just reading up on it, seeing what's changed, working with Microsoft in our case, where we can see what's coming in the future so we can kind of plan and be strategic about it. So that's all been really great.
That actually almost merits a side note. So I'll give a side note.
Okay.
It is Bentley's a major client. And so we have a relationship with them that we release things in an NDA sort of sense, right? And what's NDA mean? I should be a better acronym police.
Non-disclosure agreement?
Non-disclosure agreement.
That's why I said the future things.
I'm not going
to get too into.
So I haven't done an NDA. Well, we just did an executive briefing where it's sort of like a massive NDA briefing, but I haven't done a roadmap briefing in a couple of months here. The last one I had 293 pages, and I assure you it was abbreviated. So it's generally important to note that in Microsoft, there's the stuff that's here. There's the stuff that is coming along relatively soon, and there's stuff on the roadmap going forward. And what people may not understand is that the number one influencer of that roadmap going forward is companies like Bentley. Kevin has influenced the roadmap, but I've taken many things from him, and I've worked with his ops teams. We've taken information from that, and that all ends up in the product, right?
Yeah.
So
it's really cool because was just Friday. I spoke to one of the program managers for a product that we're looking to use. So
okay,
it's really good to have that accessibility.
Are you allowed to say which product? Is it a public product or?
No, it was your product. You were on the call, if you remember.
Oh yes. I'm sorry. We do a lot of this stuff, so it is. No, I can't talk about it.
Right? Yeah.
But it's good.
Yeah.
That's the key point. It is good. And of course, people on the listen to the podcast will of course be working with companies at all sorts of levels. But It is, as a general rule, Microsoft likes to engage with customers and to hear feedback. We used to have one screwed up notion that we knew what the hell we were doing at one point. And that wasn't the best thing. It turns out you, dear listener, know a lot more than us what should be produced, and we should pay more attention going forward. So I don't know. This has been really, really great. It is. I'm a little bemused. You can't see my face, but I'm cracking up.
It's funny.
My buddy's here, and
but you didn't ask me about my dogs. We have to.
I want to talk about it's Gracie and Diesel.
Yeah.
Yes.
Boxers.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to talk about your dogs. I want to talk about like your pictures of your dogs. And he has a daughter. He's had a normal life. I swear the most prominent thing is the dogs. Tell me about your dogs.
So I'm a part of Adopt a Boxer Rescue. So
wow, I like that's an actual Adopt a Boxer Rescue.
It's
you
a
just
website.
See a banner.
Right?
It's
a nonprofit. So we actually don't have it built in. We rescue dogs from all up and down the East Coast. And they actually live at people's houses. So a lot of times I'll actually have 3 dogs, which is a foster dog. And then we either rehab them, they live with me for a little bit. It's always hard to see them go. But throughout the whole organization, there's many dogs that get adopted and rehomed. So it's good.
Are they Azure dogs? That's what I want to know.
I'll have to ask them when I go home if they Azure.
They should be checking out docs.microsoft.com. Or dogs.microsoft.com. Maybe there's a link
at my house when I watch, fun technical YouTube videos or just videos in general, and they're usually right there. So they probably do know a thing or two.
Cool. Yes. Well, so I'm going to ask you one more thing, and then we'll wrap this up.
Sure.
If Microsoft could do fill in the blank, Azure fill in the blank, what would that be?
What would be like a cool feature?
What would be a cool feature?
Let me think.
I'm putting him on the spot. I'm probably going to edit this out. Or not. Maybe I'll just leave you there being uncomfortable trying to come up with something.
Yeah, so I would say if I had to have one feature in general would be, you kind of already do it now with the Azure files coming out, is like a storage area network native appliance in the data centers globally.
You mean with ACLs and access and that SMB 3.0 stuff?
Exactly, native, right?
Got it.
That could just scale.
Got it.
That would.
Well, we're trying. Just to be clear, though, the cloud is some milliseconds of latency away from you, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, we haven't solved physics yet, right?
Right. Well, that would be good. I mean, that would be a good feature.
I'm working on it. I'm working on it. You know my off hours. So anyway, it's been my pleasure to talk to my buddy Kevin Boland, cloud architect at Bentley Systems, and keep your heads in the clouds. We'll catch you next time. Bye.
You've been listening to AzureABILITY, a podcast for everyone interested in the art and science of developing solutions for the Microsoft Azure platform. Be sure to visit our website, AzureABILITY.com, for show notes, helpful links, and other episodes. We'd also love to receive your questions and comments. On behalf of your host, Louis Berman, and the many friends of the podcast, thanks for listening.